30th, 2022, a 29-year-old mother of 8 children, Markeisha Thomas, made a courageous decision to refuse her boyfriend in her own home, but what happened next left those who knew her regretting that decision. Minutes later, the police would receive a harrowing 911 call from the woman's boyfriend about a shooting in the same home at Crosswood Lane in Cordova, Tennessee. And when the police got there, they found a heart-breaking scene. Markeisha was lying on the floor of the garage, riddled with bullets and barely clinging on. She was rushed to the hospital, but unfortunately, it was too late. She died of her injuries soon after reaching the hospital. As the police dug for answers, they turned to the boyfriend who made the call and claimed of chasing away the shooters. But something didn't sit right, and it wasn't long before police made a shocking discovery as to why a mother of 8 was unalived. This is the tragic story of Markeisha Thomas. Markeisha Thomas was born into the Thomas family on October 29, 1993. From the very beginning, she was surrounded by love, and as she grew, she carried that same warmth with her, radiating it everywhere she went. Markeisha was always full of joy, kindness, and love. She grew up with her family in downtown Memphis. Even though she wasn't the oldest child, she acted like she was. She took care of her siblings and made her family proud every day. Everyone looked up to Markeisha. Her siblings adored her and trusted her with everything. Her father was proud of the woman she was becoming. Markeisha was the bright light in her family, the one who always wanted to do the right thing. However, her destiny didn't seem to lie in where she was at the time. Chasing a better future, Markeisha moved to Cordova, Tennessee, not too far from home, but just far enough to start fresh. She had big dreams and was ready to work for them, and she did. Markeisha was focused, hardworking, and careful with every step she took. But what she didn't know was that all her efforts, all her hope, would lead to heartbreak instead of the happiness she imagined. Markeisha had a heart of gold, but life didn't always return the favor. She loved deeply and cared genuinely, but when it came to love, she just didn't get lucky. Every man who came into her life took her kindness for weakness. Instead of cherishing her, they hurt her. All because she had a soft heart. It wasn't just the fact that the men all left her, but the way they usually did was shocking. After a while, the men she trusted would leave her, leaving behind the children they had together. In the end, Markeisha had 8 beautiful kids, but her heart never stopped hoping for that happy ending. What she didn't know was that love, sometimes, can lead you in situations that bring you pain instead of joy. That's exactly what happened to Markeisha. Markeisha was loved by everyone who knew her. She always had this way of helping those around her. Her little sister would say that Markeisha was a giver with a heart that was bigger than most. Even when she didn't have much, Markeisha would give all she had to make sure others were taken care of. With so many mouths to feed, it was never a burden for her. She just saw it as part of who she was, someone who gave, no matter what. In her community, Markeisha was always there, helping, supporting, and standing up for those who had no one else to fight for them. At home, even as a single mother, she made sure her kids had everything they needed to feel safe and loved. Even though they came from different fathers, her children shared a bond that was unbreakable. They loved each other, like true siblings. Markeisha worked tirelessly, taking on multiple jobs to make sure her kids had everything they needed while working in Cordova. But someone was about to take her attention from her children temporarily. While she was there, she met a 33-year-old man named Byron Pipkin. Despite her past relationships not turning out the way she hoped, Markeisha never gave up on love. Before long, she found herself falling deeply, madly in love with Byron. Not that she was desperate for love or something, but there was actually something special about Byron. Byron was charming and full of love, and he quickly won Markeisha's heart. He cared for her deeply and accepted her kids as his own, even though he wasn't their father. That made Markeisha fall for him even more. Byron, in turn, was drawn to Markeisha because of her kind and genuine heart. Not much was known about Byron, but he was a hard worker with big dreams for his life. After they met, he and Markeisha quickly began dating. On social media, they looked like the perfect couple, always sharing photos of their dates, hangouts, and time spent together at home.
This one's for couples. 13 embarrassing questions. Who overthinks everything? Who showers less? Who is always eating? Who has a nicer butt? Who is more possessive? Who drools more? Who is the better driver? Who curses more? Who always sleeps in? Who is always on their phone? Who has the worst singing voice? Who takes the most selfies? Who is the lawbreaker?
Their love seemed so strong that many friends and family couldn't help but envy the bond they shared. Not long after, Markeisha became pregnant and gave birth to Byron's child. But what seemed like the perfect life was just a facade. Byron worked hard to hide his true nature, but eventually it came to light. He was quick-tempered, rude, and selfish, caring for no one but himself. Markeisha loved Byron despite everything. To her, he supported her and her kids, and that made her believe he cared. But deep down, she knew that wasn't enough to justify staying in such a toxic relationship. She deserved more than just empty support. It wasn't the love she had hoped for. As the saying goes, you can only hide your true nature for so long. And that was the case with Byron. Whenever he got angry, he became physically abusive towards Markeisha. He would curse at her and make life unbearable for the kids too. His kindness, once a mask, faded, revealing the cruelty underneath. But there was more. The kids, who once saw Byron as a father, began to fear him. Whenever he started throwing tantrums, they would run and hide, seeking shelter so they wouldn't get caught in the middle of the fights between him and their mom. The man they once trusted had turned into someone they could no longer recognize or feel safe around. They used to share happy pictures of their love, but as things began to change, Markeisha started posting sad messages on her social media. It was clear to everyone that the beautiful relationship they once showed off had taken a dark turn. What had triggered Byron's sudden change? Or was this his plan all along? He had entered Markeisha's life just to bring her more pain than she had already had? The questions hung in the air, unanswered. As the truth about Byron slowly unfolded, Markeisha welcomed Byron into her life, even though his family didn't approve of his attitude. She treated his family like her own, showing them nothing but love and kindness. At one point, Byron even took to social media to praise Markeisha, thanking her for all the love and support she had shown him and his family. Little did anyone know that praise would soon fade as the truth about the relationship came to light. Byron even praised Markeisha for putting up with his bad behavior, promising to change and become the very best version of himself for her and the kids. For a while, it seemed like things might actually improve, but just when it looked like there was hope, Byron would snap, turning back into the monster he truly was. He would beat her up, sometimes even pointing a gun at her, threatening to end her life. Each promise of change was just a lie, and the cycle of abuse continued. The abuse grew worse, to the point where Markeisha's father, Mr. Thomas, warned her to leave before it was too late, before Byron finally took her life.
If he fighting you, pulling guns on you, get out the relationship, because sooner or later, like I told my daughter, he is going to kill you.
If only Markeisha could turn back time, she would have listened to her father and left with her children, but by then, the damage had already been done, and it was too late to undo the pain she had already suffered. Something tragic was about to happen. On the afternoon of June 30th, 2022, tension hung heavy in the air at the home of Markeisha and Byron in Cordova, Tennessee. What once appeared to be a picture of love had now crumbled into something dark and dangerous. After yet another heated argument, Markeisha made a desperate move. She tried to escape. She was done living in fear and pretending things would get better. But she had no idea that trying to leave that day would become a fight for her life. As she hurried toward the garage, hoping to find safety and protect her children, Byron's anger escalated. In a horrifying moment, he pulled out a firearm and shot Markeisha in the front yard. The sound of the gunshots shattered the fragile calm, and Markeisha collapsed, gravely wounded. Despite the chaos, one of their children was hiding nearby in the garage, witnessing the terrifying scene unfold. Byron then dragged Markeisha's lifeless body into the garage, concealing the tragedy from the outside world. Without remorse, he fled the home, taking their 6-year-old child with him, after which he did something quite shocking. He called 911, claiming that an unknown gunman had come into their garage and shot Markeisha. He told the dispatcher he was on a wild chase to catch the supposed culprit, all while hiding the truth of what he had just done. When the officers arrived at the crime scene, everything changed. The truth about what had really happened between Markeisha and Byron came to the light. Byron, who had called 911 saying he was chasing the shooter, was soon being tracked by the very police he had called for help. The question was, why would the boyfriend, who witnessed and reported the incident, become the prime suspect? The more the police learned, the clearer it became. Byron was no hero, but the man who had pulled the trigger. The next day, neighbors who had witnessed the horrific event came forward to the police. They told officers who had traveled from downtown Memphis to Cordova exactly what had happened. They explained how the argument between Byron and Markeisha escalated, leading to Byron shooting her as she tried to escape through the garage. After he shot her, Byron dragged her lifeless body into the garage, took her daughter with him, and then drove off. This revelation changed everything for the police, confirming what they had suspected all along. This all unfolded around 11:45 a.m. on July 1st, 2022. By the time the police arrived at the crime scene, it was already too late. Markeisha had lost too much blood. She was rushed to the hospital, but despite the doctor's efforts, she succumbed to her wounds. Her death was heartbreaking, not just for her family, but for the entire neighborhood. The loss of such a kind and loving soul left a deep, painful mark on everyone who knew her. The neighbors shared stories of how friendly, loving, and caring Markeisha was to everyone she met.
She was very friendly. She used to walk her dogs around, speak to everybody. Everybody knew her. Very good person at heart.
She wasn't just beautiful on the outside. Her heart was equally beautiful. She had a golden spirit, always giving her time, love, and energy to everyone and everything around her. Markeisha's kindness touched everyone, and her absence left a void that could never be filled. One sad fact remained. Maybe, if the neighbors had called for help sooner or rushed her to the hospital immediately after the incident, Markeisha might still be alive today. As the investigation continued, her father mourned deeply, bitterly lamenting how he had warned Markeisha to leave the relationship while she still could. He couldn't help but wonder if things would have turned out differently if she had listened to his advice.
They don't know. When they take a loved one, they don't know how much it really hurt to lose my only daughter I had.
The pain of that thought weighed heavily on him, as it did on everyone who loved her. His worst fear had come true. His little girl, full of life, had been taken from him because of love. It left him wondering, is it wrong to love, or is it right to endure abuse, hoping that your partner will change? These questions haunted him as he tried to make sense of the tragedy. The answer seemed clear in the pain of Markeisha's death. Love should never cost someone their life. No one should have to endure abuse in the hope of change. True love is about respect, kindness, and safety, not fear and pain. While Byron dropped off Markeisha's daughter at a friend's house and went to a motel, trying to lay low, 48 hours after the incident, the police finally tracked him down to the Economy Inn after receiving a tip. When they arrived, Byron barricaded himself inside, refusing to come out of his hiding spot. The standoff began as the police worked to bring him out and face the consequences of his actions. After hours of trying to talk him out, the police finally forced their way in and took Byron into custody.
Pipkin ended up being arrested after a tip led officers to a South Memphis motel where they took him into custody.
Once the news broke, several witnesses from both Markeisha's and Byron's families and friends came forward to testify against him. Their voices helped paint the full picture of the abuse Markeisha endured. In the end, justice began to take shape for Markeisha, a woman ripped away from her children and the love of her family far too soon. Byron was charged in court with first-degree murder, being a convicted felon in possession of a weapon, domestic assault, and resisting arrest. In a surprising turn, members of Byron's family came forward to show their support for Markeisha's family, offering condolences and standing against his actions. That same week, on Sunday, Friends, family, and neighbors gathered to hold a heartfelt memorial for Markeisha. They came together to honor her life, remember her kindness, and promise that her voice would never be silenced. It was a heartbreaking weekend. Many were still in shock, struggling to believe that someone as peaceful and kind as Markeisha was truly gone.
Topping the news at 10 tonight, family and friends come together to remember a Memphis mother of 8 who was shot and killed. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Shay Arthur. Investigators believe the woman's boyfriend is responsible. WRAG's Jordan James was the only reporter at a vigil tonight. He joins us now live in the studio with how Markeisha Thomas's loved ones are coping with her death. Jordan, I can imagine this was very emotional.
Yes, Shay, as you would imagine, this loss hits close to home for many of them. On a weekend that is supposed to be filled with joy has turned into sorrow for those who knew and loved Markeisha Thomas.
The banks of the Mississippi River.
What's up? Good.
Loved ones have come together to remember Markeisha Thomas.
She was always 10 toes down.
A piece of me left when my little sister left, for real. Couldn't do nothing but cry.
The mother of 8 was killed last week when police say her boyfriend Byron Pipkin shot her and dragged her body into the garage and drove off.
She had always been the first to help others, and now the community came together to return that love. They promised to take care of her children, to make sure they never felt alone, and to carry on the warmth that their mother had given them.
It's about the kids, and I just want everybody to stay in good spirits and, love everybody while they're here.
But even with all that love, one can only imagine the pain those kids are feeling, especially the 8-year-old who saw it unfold right before their eyes. No child should ever have to live with a memory like that. The only parent they had ever known was gone now, leaving them all alone in a world that suddenly felt much colder. Markeisha had dreams, big ones, not just for herself, but for her children too. She wanted a better life for them, filled with love, stability, and happiness. All she ever hoped for was to find someone who would treat her right, love her fully, and give her the family she always longed for. But in the end, that dream was cut short, all in the name of love. Everyone hoped and prayed that Byron would get to meet his end for cutting short the life of a mother, sister, daughter, and friend. Markeisha was indeed a beautiful soul who came to Cordova, Tennessee with hope, only to be doomed afterward. Her story lives on. Her memories, impact, and absence were definitely felt. One thing is for sure, most abusive relationships end on a bad note. We all shouldn't accept abuse from any gender, irrespective of love. If Markeisha had reported and requested a restraining order, or probably left the city totally with her kids, or even stayed on her own after all the failed relationships she experienced in the past, maybe she would have been living happily with her children. It's truly a heartbreaking story, one that reminds us all to say no to abuse and never stay silent in the face of danger. This is more than just a tragedy. It's a lesson we must all carry with us. What do you think? Was Markeisha holding on because she believed there was still good left in Byron? Was she hoping he would change? Or was she just trying to endure the pain because of the scars from her past relationships? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters, and you never know who it might help.